Humantra is transmuting human software. And the reason I've started researching and writing my new book about it is because we are surrounded by Silicon Valley and we're surrounded by exponential technologies. Why is nobody talking and measuring human consciousness and getting us to a place where we are thriving? The world's not thriving. Humans are not happy.
Hello and welcome to the Come Alive podcast. Today we have with us a world-renowned keynote speaker, future strategist, lecturer, best-selling author, and your guide to future trends and visionary leadership. With a knack for sharing knowledge and creating connections, his path lies at the intersection of human science, neuroscience, quantum technology, futurism, and business strategy. He decodes future trends, ignites ideas, connects with crowds, and leaves an empowering perspective that lasts long after he's left the stage. His keynote talks and masterclasses have taken him around the world and earned him global recognition. He is Africa's first Singularity University Faculty Member, a lecturer at Duke Corporate Education, and an associate partner at the Copenhagen Institute for Future Studies. He stays on top of future trends by publishing a new book every year, and his fifth book is Who Do We Become? Please join me to welcome John Sanei.
Thank you so much. Wonderful to be here.
Thank you for giving us this time, and I'm super excited to get this conversation started.
Pleasure.
So I've heard your talks at EO, and that's where we first met, and I loved every bit of it.
Thank you.
Every event that you did was really, really thought-provoking.
Thank you.
So I would love for you to be open and authentic and share with us from the beginning who you are, how you did it, and what got you here. So it's about love, life, and learnings.
Well, if I go back maybe 15 or 20 years, I was a young entrepreneur. I was doing my best to become successful, and I did really well. In my 20s, I was very successful and worked up to about 6 restaurants, 5 retail stores, many distribution brands, vending machines, had a whole range of different things going. And then at 31, it all started to crumble around me, and I had to declare bankruptcy, and I lost everything. I had to leave my fancy house and my fancy cars and move in with my friend's house into a second bedroom. And it was quite a traumatic experience for me. And I got to figure out myself and my psychology through this process of depression and having to come back from this bankruptcy and having that incredible amount of success, having lost it all and having to develop it again and to develop my psychology through the process has really got me to be in a very powerful position today, because I've gone through that sort of rigmarole and roller coaster of both emotions and business. And so now I'm in a good position to talk about my experience and understanding the psychology that's required for success in the future. Because it's not only about making money, it's really about having a peaceful life that has abundance with it. And so I think many people in the world are stuck in the idea of just the physical. And that's what I've been kind of trained in. And so my job and my mission is to bring about more elegance in the way we approach life, and ultimately bring more optimism in a world of uncertainty.
Wow, how beautifully said. And it's so true. I think through our dark times, we emerge as a winner. And like you rightly said, that you're more powerful now than you were.
Yes.
So what's that power all about? What was the transformation? How did you feel then? And how do you feel now?
It's a great question. And I think it's simply answered because I've written a book about it. And my second book, I started off with a line that said, are you running away from the darkness, or are you running towards the light? And from the outside, the person looks exactly the same as somebody who's driven, ambitious, and moving towards their goals. Except one is motivated by fear and anxiousness, and the other one is motivated by excitement and creativity. And the power I had and many people in the world are tapped into adrenaline, anxiousness, and fear, and building from a place of shame and a place of lack. And look, you can become successful financially by doing that. But ultimately, you'll arrive at $10 million and anxious that you don't have 20 and worried that you're going to lose your 10. So you know, I did a talk recently for a big bank, and I was explaining to them that whether you have $20 million or can't afford school fees, you're both anxious. And so it really doesn't matter. One's just anxious in a Mercedes Benz and the other one's anxious on a bicycle. You're still anxious. And so ultimately what's happened is that we've tricked ourselves. And today my power source comes from creation. And it's been a journey. Firstly, to realize that you were motivated by fear. My fear was poverty. I didn't want to be poor again like I was when I was growing up with my single mom. And I needed recognition because I didn't have a dad. And as you'll know, any single mom's son is desperate for recognition and acknowledgement because we never got it from our fathers. So we ask the world for it. And so what we do is we stretch ourselves, work too hard, push ourselves to get that acknowledgement. And so I had this combination of having no father and being driven by the poverty, and having gone through the bankruptcy and having done emotional self-development and a lot of work for the last 17 years, I've been able to switch my motivating factor to creativity, fascination, and curiosity rather than fear, scarcity, and addiction to certainty.
I love it. And I call it painkillers in my book. In my book, I call it the painkillers. When we are unaware, we live on painkillers, which is the car, the car, the watches, the recognition, or whatever in that way, because we are operating from a place of lack, and we want that to satisfy ourselves and to feel fulfilled and complete. But when
said.
Yeah, that's exactly what I say in my book, and that's where I operated from. I was in the fashion business. I got in there because I wanted the recognition, the power, the money, and everything that comes with it. But after my transformation and becoming aware and writing the book and going through all the pain that was inside, now I operate from love.
Yeah, I can see. It's so funny you say painkiller, but I think it's such a great term. If I don't know if you know this, but pharmaceutical companies in the world are worth almost triple what they were worth 7 years ago.
Really?
And it shows us that our population is heavily medicated. And not only on Louis Vuitton bags, but on Prozac as well.
Oh my
God.
Wow.
We actually have a range of painkillers that shows us there's something deeply wrong with our society, and that we have to really start to rethink what it means to be human and what it means to add value to the world, and ultimately to describe what really success looks like.
I agree. So what is success in your perception?
Peace. Ultimately, it's peace.
It is peace.
And, to feel whole within yourself.
Yes.
To feel a sense of freedom of your ability to create and be who you want to be, both in your light and your dark. And I think there's a lot of judgment on darkness based on culture and religion, that we're not allowed to do X, Y, and Z. But our personalities are made up of hundreds of different personas. And society doesn't allow us to play out certain one of them, which then pushes it into a shadow. That shadow becomes a festered personality trait, and we can't do anything with it because there's no love there. Yeah. And so if we have the ability to accept, be free, and feel whole, and be at peace, then it really doesn't matter what comes. And in that process, we attract whatever we want. And so I'm pretty good at it, but I tap out into my old self at times and then tap back in. And so my biggest focus is to bring about more wholeness and more peace into my life, and allow that to become the priority and the ideal of success.
That's beautiful and so well said.
Thank you.
And it cannot be measured by the worldly norms, if I may say, because success for me, success for you, everybody, it's different. Though we are taught, I guess, in school that success is the ability to achieve ABC, but that's not what success is in real life. And I think it's amazing to have speakers like you and authors like you to be able to say this and, validate this. And it's...
I think, being a futurist, I started off talking about drones and AI, and it's all very exciting, but ultimately you're dragging your old traumatized self into the future. And so you're looking at AI and drones in a state of fear, not in a state of curiosity. And so if you don't have the right emotional intelligence moving into a strange new world, how are you going to be creative in the strange new world? How are you going to be collaborative? And how are you going to be inquisitive about learning new things. You're not. Because if you're in a state of survival and triggered in trauma, the future is a very horrible place. So in my expression of the future, in my sort of journey, I went from drones to self-development because I realized that your experience of the future is by far the most important thing. It's not about the technology. The technology is a secondary thing. And I think our human software needs to be upgraded so that we can deal with uncertainty with optimism. And that's the real key.
That's beautiful. That's really beautiful. And I read a little bit about what you sent me. And so what is that all about? Humantra? Is that
Sure. So Humantra is transmuting human software. And the reason I've started researching and writing my new book about it is because we are surrounded by Silicon Valley, and we're surrounded by exponential technologies, and we're surrounded by Moore's Law, and everybody's enthralled by technology. But where's our Silicon Valley for human software? Where's our Moore's Law for human software? Why is nobody talking and measuring human consciousness and getting us to a place where we are thriving? The world's not thriving. Humans are not happy.
I agree.
They're not
Absolutely.
happy. Like, people
What's happening in the world? Like, if we might
Exactly.
say, like Russia and China and everything, why?
We're uncertain. There's conflict around. And this is all because internally we're at war with ourselves. And we're at war with ourselves because nobody's taught us to make peace with ourselves. And you have certain Eastern philosophies that do it fantastically, but then they're not integrated well into the Western world. And so, the East is now becoming more and more like the West. And so we have to start to think about how do we integrate and incorporate the two? Because look, I'm a capitalist. I love the trappings of all the beautiful things, but I also want to do it in a state of peace. And so the whole point of Humantra is how do you go about asking the right questions of what it means to be successful, and how do you go about upgrading your software?
And what is upgrading?
Would you like me to go through it?
Why not? I mean, I think it'll add immense value to everyone.
So there's four pieces. And the first piece is called wisdom. And wisdom is best described by Alan Watts. He says, a knowledgeable man has to learn something new every day, but the wise man has to unlearn something new every day.
Wow.
Or as Dr. Joe Dispenza calls it, is having memories with no triggers. Or Tony Robbins calls it, moving from unconscious memories to conscious memories. In other words, you thank your past, you don't blame your past. And now what's happened is all of a sudden is you have healed your past, which means you've healed your now, which means you become wise and adaptable for the future. You're not triggered into your past self. You're now open and free of the hooks from your past and now actually truly ready to be creative for the future. So first, wisdom, heal your past. Second, is to stop making decisions based on logic and ego and start to make decisions on curiosity, fascination, and excitement. And often what we realize is that because of the indoctrination that our families have had, that you must study, you must get that job. This is all based on fear. You must fit in. It's a logical thing to do. And it's quite egotistical because, in our cultures, our families will tell us, look, you can be an accountant, a doctor, lawyer, or a failure. That's your choices, in the Indian and Middle Eastern cultures. And this is very egotistical for our parents to show off to their friends about it. And also logical because it will give you a good salary. Don't care about your fascination and curiosity. Who cares about that? But ultimately what's happened is that there's many, many doctors and many, many lawyers that are deeply unhappy because they're not doing what they love doing. So if we start making decisions based on our curiosity, what starts to happen is we start tapping into our genius. And our genius now becomes our currency for the future. Because the world is now sitting in a space called the surplus society. And the surplus society means that everybody in the world has been educated in similar ways, working for similar companies, creating similar products for similar consumers. Everything seems to be commoditized. And think about the difference between Puma, Nike, and Adidas. Not much. Think about the difference between Audi, Mercedes-Benz, and BMW. Yeah, not much. Just a badge, maybe. It's almost like telecoms. They're all the same. Everything's the same.
Yes.
And so what we have to realize is that we seek out uniqueness. We love unique pieces and unique skills. And today what we have is a creator economy that's worth $16 billion and growing. And these are unique people selling their products and services with no gatekeepers because the internet allows you to sell to a tribe of people around the world.
Wow.
And so the second thing is curiosity. The third thing is the ability to harness our imagination. And Einstein said it best. He says imagination is more important than knowledge because it's the forthcoming attractions of what's coming next. But we've never been taught how to use our imagination correctly. And so what we do is we use our imagination in the worst way possible. It's called anxiousness. And what anxiousness is, it says I catastrophize the future. I prepare my body for war with deep, full of adrenaline and frustrated energy. And then I can't sleep. I have to drink alcohol.
Fear and flight.
Fright and flight. Always.
Yeah.
And so what's happened is that we've never practiced imagination in the best way possible. And if you think about it, you're constantly imagining, but you're just not imagining in the correct way. And so if you think about it, if you ever wanted to buy a new car, then you start seeing that car everywhere. That's your imagination. And that person that you don't like, that you keep bumping into everywhere you go, that's imagination. And so we are already imagining. We've just never been taught how to imagine correctly. And so really, if you start to heal your past, you start to make decisions with your heart, and you start to imagine possible and plausible futures, all of a sudden, you're now in a very creative space. But there's one missing piece. And the missing piece is rewiring and unlearning old habits and personality traits that don't fit into the future. And the best way that I have seen is through a process of meditation.
Yes,
and so meditation is the ability to move yourself from a beta brainwave to an alpha brainwave. And the Industrial Revolution has made the beta brainwave an addiction, a sense of I'm never done. There's always more to do. There's a deadline that we need to reach towards. So we're constantly in an adrenaline and fight or flight based on the brainwave of beta that schooling system developed for us, watching our parents develop for us, watching working in organizations, driving in traffic. All of this is high beta. Now, when you start to meditate, you move from beta to alpha, and all of a sudden, there's no critical voice in your head. You're imaginative, you're calm, your nervous system is relaxed. Yes. And now for the very first time, truly, you're starting to unlearn who you were and start to develop a new persona and a new you in many ways.
Yes, I agree.
And so you combine the four, and now you have a human software upgrade. Because now all of a sudden, you're creative, you're adaptable, you're optimistic, and you're not only not addicted to certainty, you celebrate the unknown because your curiosity is the thing that you trust the most, and that leads you into this beautiful, imaginative world that you're creating.
That's so beautifully explained. I can't even, I think, express how beautiful it was. I mean, I speak about the process of self-love and what that does to us. And in that, I have a chapter dedicated to reprogramming. Exactly what you said, you know, how to reprogram, learn, unlearn, and how to be able to understand that all this will only help you become more powerful. So, I mean, I think you have put it so well. I mean, I can't even express that. It was beautiful.
Thank you.
The way you said it.
My pleasure.
So how would you equate this to self-love? I mean, my mission has been to spread the awareness of self-love. And for me, I could translate all that you said to self-love because it's about prioritizing yourself through meditation and prioritizing what you feel, understanding where you want to go to rather than just following what has been told to you.
You know, self-love is obviously a very, very important thing to focus on, but many people are unaware of the processes, and reading a book doesn't help because it tells you what you're falling short on.
Yes.
And the private conversations you have inside your own head are not affected because you have deep patterning, sometimes even from your lineage. It's not even yours. And so the thing I always say is we spend millions of dollars on how we look, millions of dollars on protein shakes, millions of dollars on Botox, just billions and trillions of dollars on everything from the outside. And then you ask somebody when they went to therapy and they'll say, there was that one time I went to therapy, it was great. And then I'm done with that. And you're like, guy, that's like, stop worrying about all that stuff. Yeah. Just do this stuff. And so for me, my suggestion is always find the therapy processes that suit you, your persona, your culture, your ideation. Find out what they are and do as many of them as fast as possible with as many different teachers as possible, affecting 3 parts of your life: your heart, your brain, and your body. And I don't mean by exercise. I mean your body stores emotions.
Yes.
And so you need body healing, as in with kinesiology, Reiki. That's a body healing process.
Correct.
Not massages. This is an energetic thing. then the brain of meditation and rewiring your brain and rethinking about high performance, the food that you eat, what it does to your brain, and how you think about things. And then thirdly, what are you doing about your heart and the emotional state that you're in, that you carry many stories from your parents, from your culture that are not valid. But because of the idea of loyalty, we're stuck in prioritizing tradition over our own joy.
Yeah.
And we feel guilty if we move away from it. And let me tell you, our families will make us feel guilty too, because we're moving away from that scenario. So self-love, reading it, firstly, is not good enough. Secondly, get ready to be ostracized from many places that you are comfortable in, because many societies don't prioritize it.
Yeah.
And so you have to become the black sheep of the family for a while, or black sheep of the society, to move into that. But let me tell you, two things from my experience is, one, it's not an easy process to walk into, because firstly, it's not easy to love yourself. You don't realize how much you don't love yourself and how much work that is. And secondly, your family will come around, because initially they'll be shocked by it, but secondly, they'll see the new light in you.
Yeah.
And they'll be like, hang on a second, like, you didn't do what we do, but you're happier and you seem lighter. Like, what's going on? I remember, I moved away from my family's religion 20 years ago. And I remember my mom being in my first book launch, and I could see how she was looking at me from the audience, and she clicked that I didn't need to follow that religion to bring light to the world. I could do it in my way. I just needed that freedom. And it was such a huge shift in my family, because they realized that their way wasn't their only way. There's many ways.
Yes.
And so self-love is a practice. It's a lifestyle.
Yes.
It's an engagement with the right therapists as often as possible. And the ones I use are family constellation, meditation, shamanic work. It's a constant process for me, and I'm constantly in the process of unlayering the onion within myself.
How beautiful. That's really, really amazing. And that's exactly what I did. When I was afraid of being the black sheep of the family and going my way, doing my, speaking about my path, speaking about the pain I hold. And like we said, that it's not even maybe from this life.
Yeah.
So I felt all my life that I need my spouse, my husband's love to make me feel whole and complete.
Right.
Forgetting that I am whole and complete as a soul on my own. This is my journey. This life is my journey. But all I thought that my mission was to serve my husband, because my mom served her husband and her kids. And that's what I thought, that's what my subconscious programming was, that all my mission is to serve my husband, his family, my children. And that's what my life was made of. I was like, oh my God. And now when I look back, I'm like, what was I settling for? And today what I am is like
chalk and cheese.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's so amazing. Life is so beautiful. I'm so grateful for every single day of my life, for living my best, to being my best, and working on being the best version of myself every single day. So it's
fantastic. Congratulations.
Thank you.
But I also think that anybody's watching this, it's okay to have a couple pajama days, I call them.
Of course. Yes,
sit
it's a
there,
process. Yes.
Sit there, eat whatever food you want for a day or two, sit in that salt bubble if you need to.
Yeah.
But as long as you've got the tools and you have taken on the journey of that self-development and self-love, then you at least have some people around you that can help you talk you out of it. It's really when that the downward spiral becomes a habit and becomes your personality. That's a problem.
Correct.
So, even on the journey upwards, there's bumps on it, but at least it's upwards.
Yes. And I think everybody should know that they have the power within them to do this for themselves.
Yes.
Because they are here to first prioritize themselves and also take care of themselves.
The term that most people say when you use that is selfish, but I have a new term. It's called self-first.
Self-first.
I'm self-first to serve you. Let me be the full version of me before I can serve you. Because you don't want a half-full version of me. And ultimately, if I am serving you without me being fulfilled, I'm resentful to you.
Absolutely.
And it's a quiet resentful, which then becomes aggression. What's it called when you passive aggressive? And so people are passive aggressive in the world, and the best way to realize when somebody's been suppressing their anger and is passive aggressive is kidney stones. Kidney stones are an emotional expression of suppressed anger.
Oh.
And so, if you know anybody with kidney stones, watch their personality. It's often that they're quiet and have pushed all their anger down and not allowed to express it. Another one that I recently researched for my new book is children with asthma have parents that are highly anxious, because parents are breathing shallowly in their anxiousness, and children are watching you and they're picking up on your habit of shallow breathing and now become sufferers of asthma.
Yeah, I mean, I had done theta healing for
Yes.
most of my life to understand how we work, how the beliefs work, and how we operate from those beliefs. And of course, we have to let go of all those beliefs that don't serve us anymore, because it's not doing any good to us. And those are not even our beliefs.
Exactly.
Because we take it
That's
on.
the biggest thing. We're taking our parents' beliefs,
Our
projecting
grandparents'
and then projecting it onto ours, and then living our lives and judging ourselves based on their beliefs.
Exactly.
I mean, it's like a ridiculous notion that like we don't even know we're doing it.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely. It's so unconsciously done, and it's damaging us.
Totally.
It gives us no power. We become
Nothing.
powerless, and it's just so
horrible.
Yeah, we're
Well done to
hardly
you.
living.
And we're not.
Yeah, and that's why my book, Come Alive, Don't Just Exist, because this was the entire realization.
Fantastic.
So yes, I mean, that's amazing.
Well done to you. Well done to you for having gone through that process, you know.
Thank you.
Not an easy thing being a female in your culture, breaking out. That's a lot of pushback I'm sure you must have gotten, you know.
Yeah, I mean.
And still do.
Yes. But I feel when we are on purpose, the Creator supports us.
Yes.
The universe supports us, and I can feel the support. I can literally feel the support. And even when I'm working on my mission, on my purpose of spreading this light of self-love, I feel I'm in a state of flow. It's just so beautiful and magical. And I often tell my kids that I have seen magic and I feel magic every single day. And this is real magic, not only what we see in the movies.
Well, that's all fake. That's fake magic. This is real magic. Well, also, I think, you know, the Creator obviously is with us, but the Creator is within us.
Yes.
And I think that reality is echoing back to us. So whatever we're putting into our consciousness is echoing back. And so when things are in flow and things are working out for us, it's because we are projecting that expectation of abundance and optimism into reality. And so the reality just echoes it back. So it's really just a process of echoing that's happening. Yes. And so, yes, the Creator is helping us, but not in a way that He's waiting and going, okay, just push this person here. It's like within you, you've got more creator energy now. You're reflecting and projecting more of God into the world, or whatever you want to call it, your soul and your purpose. And so it just reflects back. So it's quite a simple process. I think many people get caught up on the idea of, oh, God, please help us. God says, look, go help yourself.
Help yourself first.
Go help yourself. Like, you know, people say, well, I've said prayers and that's it. No. The prayers helps you be more empowered, but you really have to step up, you know?
Yes. And so in our scriptures, there is a saying that there is never a delay from the Creator's side. It's always the delay from your side because you don't want to do the work.
Exactly. Well said.
There's a saying in Hindi, but I'm just translating it. Like like the delay is from your side. It's never from the Creator or the universe's side to give you what you want.
Absolutely.
You have to step up, show up, and be there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said. Well said.
So what's your mission with the books? Like, I know you're a speaker, author. How important are books to you? I mean, I've found this new passion to write, and I'm writing my second book, almost done kind of. So I want to know the importance, because a lot of people that I meet still, they don't read books. So I feel, you know, you get so much knowledge and power from books. I want to know your take on this.
You know, I think it's a very selfish process, writing a book. And I'll tell you why is when I decide to write a book, every piece of information I come across, I triple listen to, I triple read, I triple watch.
I agree.
And so now all of a sudden I become a sponge for as much information as possible. Like you'll find me every night walking. I walk 10 to 15 kilometers a day and I'm listening to podcasts, and I'll be stopping to write out what I've just heard in the podcast, pausing the podcast and writing it all down and sending myself notes constantly. Now,
like a research phase. So you learn.
I'm always in research.
Yeah.
So if I'm writing a book, I'm in research, which means that I'm writing a book every year, which means I'm constantly in research. And so really what happens is when I finish the book, I've upgraded myself. It's a thesis. It's another PhD. Yes, and so, you know, I've theoretically got 5 PhDs behind my name, because every time I write a book, I've got a new understanding of something. I've gone so deep into that subject to become a subject expert on it. Yes. And if people don't buy the book, I'm okay with that. But I now have an upgraded version of myself, and my strategy sessions, my board member positions, and my talks become a lot richer and a lot deeper, and ultimately help more people.
I agree. It's so true. So my third book I want to write in is based on self-love in children, teenagers, children.
Nice.
So again, I've started researching,
Yes.
I've started thinking, because I've obviously not done child psychology or anything
Right.
like that. But then, of course, I need to upgrade myself to learn, to research, and see what are the shortcomings of this subject and how to upgrade them. So it's a beautiful.
You haven't even finished your second, you're on to your third, you see?
Yes.
Because it's not the book. It's
yeah.
the commitment to becoming a forever student.
Yes.
It's a commitment to constantly learn from reality.
Yes.
Is because to put a book together, you have to go through a deep process of upgrading, you know? So yeah, I think it's an internal process for me, and it sounds like the same for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Very beautifully
put.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So what would you say, what are the 3 things you would tell tell yourself maybe 10 or 20 years ago? Like, what would you tell yourself so your life could be better?
The first thing I'd say to my, let's say, 25-year-old self is, wow, you have no idea how life is going to be amazing when you're older. Just hang in there.
That's amazing.
Like, you won't believe it. It's like, geez, you're doing all the things you wanted to do. Like, you're traveling, you're the superhero. Whenever you arrive somewhere, people are happy to see you. Whenever I arrive at a conference, people are excited to have me there. I mean, that's just so amazing, you know. The second thing I'd say is be patient. You know, just be patient. And I think a lot of people, even still for myself, is just be patient. You know, things take time and they unravel, and enjoy the process. There's a process to everything.
Yeah.
And I still practice that and remind myself of that, you know, because there's a constant process, especially it's moving to Dubai so soon, or so recently. There's also this feel that I need to catch up with everybody in Dubai because people are so amazing, yeah. And the third thing I'd say to myself is start your healing process as soon as possible, because all the gold is behind your healing process. As soon as possible, begin the process of getting into your subconscious mind and heal the patterns that are holding you back, that are making you impatient, that are making you feel a lack of self-worth. So heal quick, be patient, and boy, are you in for a fantastic ride.
Love it. I love every one of the 3 things you said. It's so true. You know, trust the process, heal yourself. It's so important. Otherwise, you'll never be able to see the magnificence of life if you don't heal yourself from the previous things you have, which are no longer serving you anyways.
Yeah.
So beautiful.
Thank you.
So if you were not this, then who would you be? If you were not this person right now, who would you be, you think?
I wouldn't have a clue. I'll be honest with you. You know, it's a good question. I've never actually been asked that question, but I'm so engrossed in what I do. It's so who I am. You know, it's just my name is my brand is my name, it's my business. And I'm getting better and better at what I do. My storytelling is getting better. I'm becoming more comfortable in my skin. I'm able to deliver more with empathy and with love rather than trying to get you to understand something. So to be honest with you, I don't want to be anybody else. I don't think I'd be good at anything else. And I think I've been very lucky enough to find my piece of genius, and I'm able to share it.
That's amazing. That's exactly how I feel right now, actually. Because, when you are in your own skin, feeling powerful, doing what you want. So that's what it is. And I guess you had a past life and I had a past life of whatever we did.
Many past lives, I would imagine, like many iterations, you know. But you're very happy. But I also think it's an age thing, you know. I don't know how old you are, but I'm nearly 50. And, you know, it's just it's a settling in of yourself, into yourself, and really starting to access the deeper resonances of who you are, you know. And the closer you get to yourself as your soul and to your own genius through a process of meditation and healing, the more light you carry. And the more light you carry, the brighter you are and the further you see. So the more relaxed you are.
I agree. But I remember coming into work, I mean, in the sense, graduating, after graduation, the anxiety people hold because they want to prove themselves. They want to make that money. They want to make that name. And they feel, I mean, I felt at that time when I was 22, I think, I felt that there's no time. I want to do it all now. What would you like to say to those people? Like students and
in your 20s,
young, in our 20s.
In your 20s, try and do as many things as possible. You should be in a hurry to pick up as much experience as you can. That's the only hurry you should be.
Yeah.
It's just pick up experiences. And that's what your 20s are for. You're not supposed to have it figured out. You can be a dum-dum. It's okay.
Yeah.
Don't judge yourself.
Okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
I want to say that.
Be anxious. Be running around like a bearded fly.
Yes.
Like, do that thing. It's
But,
fine.
it's even now, actually, I have my nephews who are, who one is in Spain, one is in UAE. And of course, because of the disruption in the market, they're not getting the job they would love to get. So they're very anxious and they're like blaming themselves for it. And even after so much effort of the family trying to explain to them that it's not you, it's the way it is. Just don't beat yourself up for this. They are anxious. And
I think they need to have a practice of meditation.
Yes.
And maybe pick it up, and also a practice of more emotional awareness. And maybe their parents aren't doing that, and so it's unfamiliar to them. So that's a good practice to have. But look, in your 20s, you're supposed to be you're supposed to not know.
Yeah.
You're supposed to be bumping your head. That's the whole point of your 20s. You know what I mean? And I think people put pressure on themselves that they should have grown up already. They must have absolutely know what they're doing.
Yes.
They should have been successful already. It's like, no, you don't. It's like,
no, I felt that. I did feel that because when I had my fashion label, I was just like, oh my God, I need to do this. I need to prove myself. I need to prove myself to my parents. I need to work. I need to be the best fashion designer in the world. And I was suffering.
Suffering. Not being creative. Trying to be creative in a state of anxiousness is almost impossible.
It was really...
Again, I think the same scenario I told myself at 25 is what I'll tell them. Be patient, start your healing journey, and be excited about your future, man.
Yes.
It's not written. You're going to be creating it, and there's going to be bumps along the road. Be okay with it. I call it agile optimism, not fragile optimism. Fragile optimism says that, if it doesn't work out like I wanted to, then I'm going to be sulk and be cynical. Agile optimism says I'm optimistic in my behavior. Of whatever comes, that's a superpower. You meet any billionaire in the world, not any, but a lot of billionaires, very successful people, are agile in their optimism. They're like, oh, something else to solve. Okay. They're moving on, foot forward, not foot backwards. And so that's a good practice. It's an emotional intelligence and fitness they need to pick up on.
Yes, I agree. That's the prime, I think, of
the only thing.
Yeah.
Everything else fits on top of that.
I wish they taught this in school when they were graduating.
Well, the teachers don't know. So how would that?
We need to make that awareness now. We need to get together and make this awareness.
Exactly.
Because I have 10-year-old twins and I do speak to them about it. I try to tell them, trust the process. You do your best. Don't worry about the outcome. Let the outcome be on the creator. You do your best. Become the best version. Enjoy yourself. Love yourself in the process. And everything will fall in place.
That's great advice. But I think even better advice is remember that your kids aren't listening to a word you're saying because your actions are so loud.
No, and that's why I do what I do.
Exactly. And
I love myself.
Exactly. So they're just watching you.
Yes, that's
you
a great
blah,
tip.
blah, 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 whatever. They're just like, what's mom doing? Is she freaking out in the traffic? Is she freaking out when her business deals don't happen? Is she complaining about things in the future?
Yes,
like,
I agree.
They're watching nuances, behavior, and tone.
Yes.
And they're picking those things up without even realizing it.
Yes.
And so all the lectures in the world don't even really need to happen, because if you're watching you and you're in that state of flow, that's all they need, actually.
Yes.
They're sponging off us.
Very well said. And thank you for sharing this, because I think it's very, very important. We need to work on ourselves. We need to be who we are meant to be, and that will obviously rub off in the entire family.
Without a doubt.
So that's beautiful.
Without a doubt.
So what is it that you would like the world to know you for?
I'm in the process of doing it, is really starting to get people to ask deeper questions of themselves. And I think ultimately when you start to really ask the important questions, you start to heal the deeper parts of yourself that give you natural optimism for the future. And so my mission for my business is to bring more optimism to the world, whether it's to executives, board members, or just people in general. But the deeper question is, how do you bring optimism? And for me, I want to be able to tell stories in a way that get people to really reflect and to have an effect on them long after my talks and long after reading my books, is to say, well, there's a question I need to ask, and I need to keep asking that question until I can solve it, heal it, and process it.
So it's like introspection.
For me, that's the most important thing, because if you're not taking the time for introspection, if you're not taking the time to heal those deeper, painful parts of yourself, the world will continuously be at war. because the world is a reflection point of our internal dialogues. And so the craziness in the world is a reflection of our craziness in our heads. And so if we can heal this machine inside here, the reflection becomes, I look for peace, I look for collaboration, I look for joy. And in that process, that's what I find. And in quantum science, proving it now, that that's what the reality becomes. It echoes that back to you. So the war outside is a reflection point of the war inside. And if we can heal the war inside, then that's a fantastic thing for me to be known for. But you know, everybody who listens to me or reads my books has a different perspective. You know, some people are triggered in certain ways. Some people are joyful to hear it. Some people think it's airy-fairy. That's not my job to confirm for them. My job is to really dig deeper into myself and reflect it out of myself and my actions.
Beautiful, beautifully said. And what is your new book about? Who do we become?
Oh, it's my old book now because I'm writing my new one.
Oh, okay. But it's the latest one. It's the fifth one.
It's the latest one. The fifth one is called Who Do We Become? I wrote it because the world is complaining about the future, not elevating.
Okay.
And so we're worried about the future, but nobody's doing the work to meet this future at what it needs from us. And so the question is, who are you becoming? Not why is the world changing? Why is my business not doing as it used to? How can I make more money? The question is, who are you becoming? How are you evolving, elevating, and becoming a new version of yourself to meet this future at what it needs from you? So most people are very happy to be angry, but can't go through that process of anger to elevate themselves to the next space.
I love it. I so love it.
Thank you.
This is so important in life. Exactly. Stop complaining, start doing.
Yeah. It's like, why would you want to get stuck and complain? But you know why? You're addicted to complain.
Yes.
And so what happens, you have a bunch of friends and you go for coffee together and you complain. And you go to the pub and you complain. And you go to this and you complain. And so if you're not complaining about the politics, you'll find the traffic to complain about. And then it will be the sports that you complain. And then
it's an addiction.
It's an addiction to complaining. And that becomes your persona, your personality. And so now all of a sudden you're stuck. And you can't. And now somebody comes and tells you, stop complaining. You'll complain about the person telling you not to complain.
Yeah. So how do you break this? I mean, how do you break this habit of complaining?
Wisdom, curiosity, imagination, and meditation.
Awesome.
It's the only thing, because you're made up of your memories, and your memories are all false. None of them are true. Yes. They're made up of stories that you decided to hold on to.
And even stories that you created, I feel.
Even more, exactly.
Yeah, I feel that there was so many limitations within me, but none of it was true, because I am married to the same person. My life is exactly the same, but I'm so much more powerful. I'm enjoying every day of my life. And this was exactly the reverse of who I was.
And you're in the same place.
Exactly. I'm in the same place. I'm in the same country. I'm in the same place. I have the same parents. I have the same brother. I have the same husband. I have the same in-laws. I have everything the same. But it's just, I have so much more space. I have freedom. I have everything. So all my suffering was just the stories in my head.
You know, I was thinking that on the way here in the taxi, I was going through something in my head, and I was like, and I caught myself. I said, you know, this is your approach to the subject, no matter what's going on in the subject. The subject's irrelevant. It's you. It's me thinking like this.
Always us.
It's always me. And look, even writing about it, and even meditating 2 hours a day, and even going through all these, I'm still catching myself. I'm like, why are you thinking like that?
Yeah.
What the hell's going on with you? Why are you caught up in the sulky victim mindset, you know?
Yeah, victim.
And you've got to catch the nuances of victim is so intelligent.
Yes.
It seeps in the most unrelenting ways, you know? So it's our job to elevate through them. That's why Who Do We Become is so important for us to ask this question constantly.
And I can't stop, but I think we have to stop right now. I mean, it's been so beautiful to speak with you and learn from you and have this wisdom with you from all your books, all the work you have done on yourself. I've thoroughly enjoyed the show. Thank you for coming here. Thank you for adding your energy to my podcast. I really appreciate it.
My absolute pleasure. And shout out to everybody out there. Merry Christmas and have a great 2023.
Thank you for watching this episode of the Come Alive podcast. If you've enjoyed the show, please leave us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you're hearing this. Share it with whoever needs to hear it. If you're watching the YouTube version of this podcast, please leave us a like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Thank you and lots of love.